What's up, guys? My name is Joseph, and I hope you're all doing really well today. As you can see, I'm continuing on with the theme of making every video in a different location. Welcome to me and my roommate's bedroom, you guys. Hope you're comfortable. Sitting on the trash can over there. Before I start talking about the movie that you're obviously clicked on here for, as I'm sure you can tell, maybe, I'm going unscripted on this one. My last two videos, my first two, I was very scripted. All of those constant cuts after every sentence were because I was checking my phone to read my script to read exactly those words. I'm nervous about feeling like I'm going to be able to say everything I want to say and about being entertaining enough. So those scripts were kind of a way to vanguard a little bit, preemptively be like, no, I'm comfortable with what I'm going to say, so I'm okay making this video. But I really just wanted to try out, opening up my box a little bit and becoming comfortable talking about, art that I love. And not feeling like I need to kind of meet some threshold or I feel like you get the point. So so we're going off script, unscripted. As much as I did just talk about authenticity, at the same time, these aren't just for me. I actually want to try to not teach people, but provide people with, recommendations, with enjoyable videos to watch. Say interesting things. So if it's actually like you feel like these are unwatchable without a script, leave me a comment, let me know, and I'll be more scripted. Yeah. Awesome. Do you want to say hi to the YouTube video?
Oh, yeah.
This is my housemate Silas.
Hi there.
I'm gonna put you in the video now. Is it cool if I show your face?
You're good.
Yeah. Here, wait, come lower.
Okay.
Unless you don't want to. This is my boy Silas.
Subscribe to Joseph's channel.
Aw, dude, thanks. Unpaid, by the way.
Unpaid.
He just loves me, and I love you too. I'm gonna have some pasta really quick. I hope that's okay. Sorry. Oh no. Okay, today we're gonna be talking about The Brutalist. I'm a huge proponent of going into a movie knowing absolutely nothing, going in completely blind, and I think you should do that as well. Honestly. So I would even say, if you haven't seen this movie and you're even halfway interested, go and see it. Maybe even before watching the non-spoiler section, because this is a fantastic movie. So that's just the initial recommendation is a yes. It's good. It's one of the best movies of the year, even. So please go see it by all means. I think the way that I want to do this is I'm going to split these reviews up into a non-spoiler section at the beginning, first couple of minutes, kind of just give you a recommendation or not. And then I'll go into heavy spoilers because I really love to dive deep into movies. And for people who have seen them, I want to be a place where everything is talked about. I don't want to leave anything out, basically. Non-spoiler section. It's a little hard to do a non-spoiler section for me because I feel like I just end up going through a list of like, this was good. This was good. I didn't like that part. That was okay. But, if this is really just to maybe push someone to go and see this film, let me just start going through it. Acting, performances across the board, incredible. Adrien Brody, not that it matters, but Adrien Brody deserves that Oscar. This was the best performance of the year. He dove into this role headfirst. You were not watching Adrien Brody act. You were watching Laszlo Toth the entire time. It was truly an immersive performance. Felicity Jones was incredible, carried such weight even though she was a bit more reserved. She has an incredible moment near the end of the film. Guy Pearce was also excellent, though he was a bit more, I wouldn't say one note because every character has depth, but you kind of get his character archetype pretty early on. But it was performed excellently, and it had its own kind of idiosyncrasies. It wasn't just, well, that's that archetype. It was its own character as well. The directing, I should just say, actually overall, this movie is a technical feat. It's a technical marvel. Everything just works together in tandem in this incredible, awe-inspiring way. God, I don't even know where to start. It's easy. It's easy to see that it is just done beautifully and done intentionally to truly enhance the story. It all blends together so cohesively. The music is grand. It makes your heart sing. It makes you giddy and smile wide. Oh man, there's just some scenes where there's just this brass section in the instrumental and the sound in the score that literally thinking about now, like, it makes my heart beat faster. It is a fantastic score. I have to say, I think this score, and this is hard for me to admit, I think this is the best score of the year. It beat out Challengers. That was number one, because it's just so fun, and obviously Challengers it's going for a very kind of sexually charged, like club thumping, like get your heart pumping, like you want to move. And this one is just it's just it's just beautiful. There's really no other way to describe it. It's a beautiful score. The epic moments are epic and awesome. The quiet, subtle moments strike such a chord. It's beautiful. The score is amazing, and it ties in with the editing so well. This movie is structured and edited in an incredible way, to where even if scenes don't necessarily have the most, they shouldn't follow as well as they do. There's just a rhythm to it where even if you're like, okay, we're here now, even though we were just there, you get it because it's all following, again, that emotional experience. Nothing in this movie, none of the technical elements were flashy just to be flashy, and they are flashy. They're very flashy. They're very exciting and bold, but they are so impactful. Every choice aids the story, that emotional story. And the first half of this movie is just non-stop momentum. And not in the sense that it's like, it doesn't stop, it's beat, blah, 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 like that. Momentum, because there's a lot of very slow scenes, introspective scenes, pensive scenes, anxious scenes, quiet scenes, mixed in with all these very moving, bustling, chaotic scenes. But what I mean by there's this constant momentum is when you're watching, you just keep leaning in, metaphorically speaking. Like the first half is an hour 45, and when that intermission hit, I got not upset, but I was like, no, I don't want to leave this feeling. I don't want to leave this building. The whole first half, like I said, this momentum, it just keeps building and building on itself, and and it's so exciting to watch something, especially something this heavy and this long, and feel like, oh no, I got this. This is an easy watch. It's easy to get in it. It's immersive, I guess, is the good word for it. Just like, I guess, just to wrap this all up so we can get into the spoilers, the technical elements of this film are fantastic, all helping the story. The story itself is great. I'll get into that a lot more, obviously, in the spoiler section, but just if we're doing non-spoiler, simple, story's great, technical elements are great, acting is great, directing is great. Like I said, really not much else to say. It's insanely strong recommendation and insanely strong movie, in my opinion. So please do yourself the favor and go see it. Especially if you're like a brain rotter, try it out. I'm serious. I think you'll be surprised at how, like I said earlier, how easy it is to actually stay connected to this film. I literally, there's no one that I wouldn't recommend this movie to. Well, I guess maybe if just generally, watching a traumatic life unfold sounds horrible, then maybe don't watch this, because that's more or less what this film is, in a sense. It's more than like misery porn, for lack of a better term. Sorry, that's gross, but it's more than that, but it's also heavy. So I would say maybe if you can't handle that, then you should stay away. But seriously, just one of the best movies in recent years. And let's get into the spoilers.
My buildings were devised to endure such erosion.
Getting into spoilers, I think I just have to start talking because I have no clue where to start. You know what? Let's actually start off with the very first scene. That seems like a fantastic place to start. That opening sequence with Laszlo on the boat and the hustle and bustle with the sound design and with the frenetic camera movements and cuts mixed with long kind of tracking shots as you follow him through what you can't even really tell where it is, what's going on. Everyone's moving. Something big is happening. There's just this anticipation, and it just keeps on going and going. And it's this incredible way to start this film because you're immediately in it. It grabs you. it takes a hold of you right from the very beginning. And that was so awesome. And you follow him through this dingy boat. Everything is dark. It's scary. He looks so stressed, and he looks weak. He looks tired. He looks like he's been through so much. And you're just following him. Where are we going? Where are we going? You just follow him. And unscripted is hard. Oh my God, I'm like getting nervous. I haven't even said anything yet. You follow him through the freaking boat, and then you get to air and sky, and this score kicks in. Bum, bum, bum. This beautiful brass motif that plays all throughout the film. It hits you with that shot, that iconic shot from the trailer and from the poster, the upside down Eiffel Tower. And it was at that moment that this movie, I love a period piece. Specifically, I have found 1900 period pieces. I'm really fascinated by period pieces that take place kind of right before we got to the truly modern era, if that makes sense. Where we are so much to the point where we're at now, and yet there's also so much different, like technologically and you know, like the capabilities of what humans can do in 1950 outside of, you know, personalized computers and phones. You know, it's pretty much all there. We can fly. We haven't been to space yet, but we're getting there. We're building rockets. We have infrastructure that spans, you know, continents. You can get anywhere in the world, and you can reach anyone in the world. But at the same time, you're still at a point where, you know, you don't have phones. You can't just call someone. You need to live in proximity to them or know how to reach them. But there's a big plot point for the first half of this movie that Laszlo and his wife, who is still back in Europe, Ezrabet, they can only sporadically, if they're lucky, get a letter to each other. And so you come to this new world. This is all going back, I think, to why I got on this tangent, basically. This whole sequence, getting off the ship. You already know he's a Holocaust survivor. He's been through the worst persecution you can ever possibly imagine, and he makes it to America, which is supposed to be the land of the free. And it's just this incredible experience, this wild emotional experience where you just feel what he's feeling, the tears of joy of seeing. Like, I just thought about it watching this movie, like what the Statue of Liberty must have meant to him. I think what I'm trying to say here is really just hammering at the point that this movie just, for some reason, makes you feel everything. Like, you're just there, you're in it. It's so good. That whole sequence, I'm rambling here, but that whole sequence, I just love it. I could watch that over and over and over again. Moving past the opening sequence, I think I want to go the exact opposite route and start talking big pictures, so then I can narrow in on certain things that stood out to me in terms of these big picture ideas. So, I guess you can't get much more big picture than theme. And I think the theme of this movie is very interesting. While on paper, I feel like one might think that the theme of this movie would be, you know, at first maybe you think the theme is almost like an American exceptionalism kind of thing, where it's like, you know, the land of possibility and a second chance. But then pretty quickly you realize that isn't the case, at least for, you know, who might really benefit from it, say an immigrant from Europe who survived the Holocaust. And so then maybe as certain events unfold and he's treated certain ways and his life takes a certain direction, you would think, oh no, the theme of this movie is maybe a negative view on America. You know, we aren't kind to immigrants. We don't offer equitable opportunities to all. And it's you know, there's anti-capitalist sentiment in this film. You know, you think that maybe it's a anti-capitalist film. And it's kind of talking about how, you know, people with less opportunity and less privilege are exploited and worked to the bone. But then it's so interesting. The theme of this movie is so vast and yet so vague, because I think if there's any scene that truly exemplifies the theme of this movie more than any scene, any line, it would be and it's so beautiful. It would be Laszlo's explanation to Van Buren about why he makes art, about why he makes the buildings he does. And obviously I can't recite it verbatim, but the general point was that these monuments are a testament to life in spite of everything, in spite of the horror, in spite of the fear, in spite of the hatred, in spite of the disgust, in spite of the insecurity. He is making this art to prove that he was there, that regardless of what happens to him, he lived. And that in itself is everything. And it's literally like such a beautiful scene. This makes me want to just start kind of talking about the whole first half of the movie, because man, this movie is interesting for me, because the first half of it, again, like before the intermission, is without a doubt, hands down, best. Obviously it wasn't the full movie, but that first half, if it were its own thing, easily best movie of last year. Like I said earlier, that momentum just doesn't stop. For an hour and 45 minutes, you just continue to become more invested, and it keeps introducing more plot lines and kind of thematic, I don't know what this is, kind of thematic, I don't know, I can't think of a word, thematic things. You know, things happen that are thematic. I don't know how to describe that, but it was just, like, wow. The point I was making, though, is that this movie is very interesting because that's the first half. And then the second half, while being very, very, very good, was a little more confusing, was a little less conventional, much less conventional. None of the movie is particularly conventional, but it got genuinely abstract at points. There were a lot of choices that were made that, while I'm sure have purpose, I don't necessarily know that they did make the movie better. And so it's in this weird spot where it's like the first half of this movie kind of led me on a little bit, for lack of a better term, to where the second half, I just wasn't prepared for where it was going to go. The second half was interesting for these reasons. For one, it just got so dark. And obviously, you know, that's kind of the point of this movie. I just went through the whole theme being, despite how bad it gets, I was alive. Which, you know, saying that sentence out loud actually does, I think, make me appreciate that second half a little more. But in terms of a viewing experience, what I mean by it got so dark is it just got to this point where it was almost like, rather than introducing a new kind of bad thing that happens to Laszlo, and then, or even a couple, and then focusing on those, and just focusing on those, and giving them all these arcs that all tie together. It was almost like the movie just spent so many scenes adding another bad thing that happened to him, you know, to go down the list. It's like the first half of the movie ends with him being like, "I'll see you soon," to his wife. And she shows up and she's paralyzed in her legs. She can't move her legs. She has osteoporosis, so she's in a wheelchair. Like, that's just how it starts. And then things, you know, he starts building the building in the first half, right? But then in the second half, there's just a train crash. There's no lead up to the train crash. There's no, you know, explanation. There's just a train crash. And so a bunch of materials that were going to the building are destroyed, and Van Buren pulls out of the project, which just sends our characters into disarray and in the unknown, because his work and everything he's been doing and everything the movie's been leading to got destroyed. And so then he's laid off of the job, and then, oh my God, and then he's like addicted to opioids, and it doesn't get better. It just keeps getting worse. And then, you know, the relationship becomes strained because she feels he does not think of her enough, and he isn't thinking of her enough, but it's because he's an addict, which you can't blame him for being an addict. And he's laid off of work, and he's been through so much. And then it's like, oh my gosh. And then there's the assault scene where that scene, I almost had to like take a step out of the movie where I'm like, I can't even be connected to this because so much bad stuff has happened where it's like, oh, now this too, on top of everything, he's high on, I guess, heroin, and then Van Buren assaults him while he's incapable of defending himself. And it's like I said, I almost have to step back and I can't emotionally be attached to this film anymore because it's like, again, it's like they don't. It was interesting because as much as this movie's about darkness and living on, it almost felt like it was just more and more darkness. It was just scene after scene of darkness and like another bad thing, another bad thing, another bad thing, another bad thing. And they never spent any time to really explain anything else. Not explain. They never really spent time to showcase any other emotion. It was just bad things that kept happening. And that was interesting. Another interesting thing about the second half was it got abstract. Hey, you want to say hi to the video too?
Oh boy. Hi.
This is my roommate Seth. And then also the second half, it got abstract, for lack of a better word. And I say abstract because it's not surreal. It becomes unconventional, I guess. It becomes abstract in the sense that it starts to take creative and artistic choices that aren't immediately easily explainable. You have to be willing to buy in and think, why did they do that? Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it was a little tougher. I apologize, y'all. My camera is being mean and keeps cutting out on me. So if at a certain point in this video it just turns into me putting an image up and you hear my voice, I hope that's okay. I've been at this for so long now since this is an unscripted one, and I don't want to keep having to lose my flow by redoing things because it wasn't shot, so I apologize for that. Basically, the second half just got... It wasn't as perfectly cohesive, I guess, and easily cohesive as the first half. That was just nonstop, like the best thing I've seen all year, and just literally wouldn't change a thing. It got to this point where I was questioning a lot of things, and even still, the second half, this is a pretty rudimentary way of describing something, but even the second half, I would still give a 4 out of 5. If I were to have to give it a rating, I would give it a 4 out of 5 still. It was still great, but it was just that after that first half looking like it could be one of my favorite movies ever, it was a little interesting and a little jarring and a little disappointing is a bad word, but I just didn't connect as much, I guess. So that was an interesting thing about the second half. And then, okay, what the hell was that ending? What was that ending? I've thought it over and I've been like, why would they do this? Like, what does this mean? And I can't think of why you don't just end the movie, in a more conventional way with this story. I really didn't understand it. I thought it was very bizarre. I thought, why the pop version of this overture? Not this overture. Why the pop version of this motif that we've been having the whole movie? Why this weird, like, din, 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 din? Like, I didn't get it. And then, it's edited so cheerfully, and it's cutting between real, reality, like what you're seeing is shot to be the reality of the movie, but then it's also cutting to like grainy live footage, but also of the moment, like they're being broadcast. So it's cutting between the two, and which I guess could make sense because it's happening at this whole event for Laszlo. But then like the transitions cutting between the shots are like those weird like infomercial ones, like the weird like half the screen will like swipe and then the other half will swipe, or it does like a weird circle swoop, or it's like the Star Wars transitions, like there's the joke like George Lucas just decided he's gonna say screw it and just put a bunch of weird transitions. I was just like, okay, like I just watched this insane 3.5 hours of something, and they just threw that out the window for the last 10 minutes and just said, we're going to do something totally else. And it's just like this weird thing where it's like, sure, I can sit here and I can think, oh no, I'm sure they did that to represent this and to mean this. And there's, but I'm just also like, I think I would have preferred a normal ending that didn't take place like a dozen years after everything we just saw. It was like it ended where, like Ezra Beth goes and confronts Van Buren, saying, "You raped my husband, you piece of crap. You're horrible." And he calls him out in front of his family and in front of guests. And it's that whole intense scene, and then Van Buren goes missing, and they go searching for him. There's the whole she almost ODs thing. So it's just like building and building, and then I was like getting to this point where I'm like, okay, I know there's not that much left in the movie. How's this going to wrap up? And I was really hoping for something tight. And it just went the complete opposite direction. It did something totally not... It felt random. I'm sure it wasn't, but it felt random. And I just wasn't sure how well that worked for me. It doesn't really detract so much from the movie because the last 10 minutes doesn't undo the first 3.5 hours. I just thought it was weird, and it just kind of ties more into why the second half was... There was also another thing with the second half where it was generally a little bit... Like I've said this a lot, but that the first half just has this perfect momentum where it's like even if a scene doesn't necessarily like perfectly correlate with the last scene, it does on the emotional level where like you're still following the journey of Laszlo and whatever's happening is aiding in that. And then the second half, it just got a little bit maybe some things did feel a little bit arbitrary, I suppose. And if anyone disagrees, as always, I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. I will reply. I love talking movies. So if anyone feels differently about the ending specifically or has an opinion or a theory on it, like, let me know. I would love to hear. But it wasn't as perfect. There was still a lot to like. It still was technically amazing, sound editing wise. But it's just a little different. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to get into miscellaneous stuff now. Let's see. Miscellaneous stuff. This movie was surprisingly funny. I thought this movie was very funny, which is hilarious given how dark it was. I think specifically Van Buren's character had a lot of humor. There's a lot of movies nowadays in recent days that are very like eat the rich, like screw capitalists and screw billionaires. They're bad. And they, like Triangle of Sadness, where they're written super out of touch and like haughty and arrogant. And it's like, and it is kind of archetypal. Van Buren's character is that same kind of out of touch, egotistical, but it's so specific. The things that he says are so specific. They're not easy. They're not low hanging fruit. They're not like, oh, we need our character to seem like an asshole. Let's make him rude to a homeless guy. It's like he'll say something that he thinks is like perfectly sound reasoning, and you just hear it, and you're like, huh? Like that's how you think. But it's played for comedic effects in the movie so well. God, I wish I could remember some, but there were genuinely a bunch of just laugh out loud moments where you're like, damn, this guy sucks. This guy's out of touch. He's stupid as hell. But he's also like well-rounded. He's not one note. He's not just that. He has a person, a character. He is intellectual, if you will, in the sense, one of the greatest lines, and they do it twice, and it's so funny. It lands better the second time. I found this conversation to be... What does he say? I found this conversation to be stimulating, or something. But it's just like he says it so seriously, like he's not joking. He's genuinely saying that as if he has any right to like comment on the intellectual capacity of his conversational partner. It's so good. Yeah, there's just a bunch of moments like that, like just the out of touch, rich comedy works. Another really funny line when Laszlo pulls, I don't remember the dude's name, but it's like this one developer dude, and he pulls him to the side. They're like having an argument, and he pulls him over. He's like, come here. No, come here. And like you almost think like it's about to be this, like, all right, let's see eye to eye. Like obviously we have our differences, but let's figure this out. But then he basically just goes, everything that's ugly and stupid, but most importantly ugly about this building, it's your fault. And just seeing the other dude's facial reaction. One of the things that I think is super awesome about this movie, the director, Brady Corbet, what made me think of this was I was going to say that everyone, even the side characters, are so perfectly reaching the same emotional notes. They're living in the same world. Yeah, I thought Isaiah and his son, those two characters were kind of an emotional core to the film that, despite not having the most screen time, were just so like so strong and so powerful. I love the multifacetedness of the messaging of this movie. That's a very vague thing to say, so let me try to explain what I mean. There are so many emotional states that are unbelievably complex. For example, the first half of the movie ends with him being like, "I'll see you soon," to his wife. And she shows up and she's paralyzed in her legs. She can't move her legs. She has osteoporosis, so she's in a wheelchair. And it's like, it's just acted and directed so beautifully, where you really feel the happiness and the relief and the joy of seeing your significant other for the first time in years after thinking they were dead. There's that joy. There's the confusion of trying to process the reality of the situation. There's and it's sad, but the disappointment of knowing that things won't be as easy as you would have hoped they would be once you finally got back with your partner. And the kind of, on Ezrabet's side, the guilt of not admitting it, and on Laszlo's side, the guilt of feeling unhappy about it. But also at the same time, you understand that they're both checking themselves on that. Like, she is like trying to remain strong and say this doesn't define me, and he's trying to find that conclusion within himself. That's one example. Their relationship as a whole, oh my God, the scene, this is going to be a little graphic, so mom, click away. I know you don't like sex scenes. The hand job scene, oh my God, it's I think some people might see that scene as like almost problematic and maybe male fantasy written, where it's like, oh, she's literally jacking him off while telling him it's okay that he cheated. And I think some people might have a problem with that. But when I was watching it, and I guess maybe I'm not necessarily the person to be able to counter that if I'm a dude, I guess. But when I was watching it, it was, she is trying to be strong. She's trying to be kind. She's trying to catch up. She's trying to give them both a push to say, let's put it all behind us. She's not mad. She understands, he thought she was dead and she thought he was dead. And the movie has like a level of eroticism throughout it as well, like a very dark eroticism. So this kind of ties into that, where it's almost like, and sometimes vice is shown in this movie to be, which I'll get to in a sec, is the whole opioid thing. But vice is, like sex is this relief for having such a terrible life, but it's also hard to feel in the mood because you have all of this baggage. And it was just this whole thing where she was like, we're going to push through. We're going to push through. Going back into the multifacetedness, there's the whole kind of like addict storyline, where it's also incorporated within the story, where it's, you cannot blame Laszlo for being addicted. After going through what he's been, for needing some kind of relief, it's not something that you can blame him for. And yet you can be so upset at him for choosing it. But again, it's also like, it's not even choosing, because it's a chemical dependency. You can't help it. But you're also upset because he's treating the people closest to him bad and kind of losing himself. But you also know that in a way it's he kind of needs it. Like, I guess tying both the addiction and the eroticism together, there's of course the scene where the pain from her osteoporosis is so bad and she's out of pills, and so he gives her some of his, I'm assuming morphine. And it's this scene where you're like, oh, no, please, like, don't get her hooked too. Like, we don't need to go there. And yet the scene that follows is beautiful. It's romantic. It's, they've both been through this horrible life. And as much as you can say it's not a smart choice, obviously, to give your significant other such an addictive substance, it connects them and it grounds them and it puts them in the same headspace for the first time in probably years, where they're both just with each other, trying to make each other happy, experimenting and expressing their emotions and their needs, and it's just like, it's hard to describe all of the I keep using the word, but multifacetedness, the multifacetedness of just some of the scenes of this movie. They are so layered and so deep and so just so packed with emotion. There's so many scenes like that. Oh, I guess I can say that too. The score in general was really cool. There was something really cool about the score in the way that it plays with dissonance. You'll have beautiful motifs and perfectly, traditionally sound, I guess you can say, music that is just like, it resolves itself beautifully. And but then it'll just slowly start trickling in these other weird, like almost like an A24 horror movie sting, like the little like, I hope that came across. It just starts to kind of trickle those in, and then this like all of these different layers start to come in that are anxiety inducing. But then it'll go back to the beauty, which I think is just like, the score is perfect because, again, like I'm saying, man, everything about the technical level of this movie is just like peak. It's just peak. It all aids the emotional journey. It's beautiful. I think that's kind of what I got. So we're gonna go to an outro now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Anyone who stuck through to the end, you're awesome for for listening to this, for actually engaging with my completely disoriented and just all over the place brain. This is what happens when I'm unscripted. But I really love this film. I'll have a review for Nickel Boys coming up next week. I am tomorrow going to go out and see SZA's new movie, so expect a review on that coming out soon. I have another Microbudget Mondays coming out, not this upcoming Monday, but next Monday. Can't wait to talk about that. I've got a best of 2024 list coming out in a few weeks. I love all of you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. And again, apologies for the weirdness in this video. The unscripted, the camera dying, and finishing out on the iPhone. I'm gonna stop apologizing, actually. Like I said at the first one, this is my channel, so have at me.